A table full of food, is an altar to God. When you put salt on it, and break bread, salt, an altar to God. How so? Well, Sodom and Gomorrah got destroyed with salt because there was no room for anybody. Couldn't have a guest in your home. Couldn't take care of the poor. So make an altar or table. If you're just making it for yourself, for your own pleasure, not good. That's what they do in Sodom and Gomorrah. My table is for my pleasure. Salt is to remind us, don't be like Sodom and Gomorrah. You don't take care of the poor and you don't have people guests at your table. That was kind of a teachings from today's Chumash and Rashi that we just finished. Join me daily for learning the Torah portion with Rashi. It's quite fascinating. Learning about sacrifices, offerings. Okay. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Who do we share with today? Michael in Germany, every day. Brett from Pennsylvania, becoming an everydayer. So is Jackie from Charlotte, North Carolina. Rabbi has been now for a while. In Morocco, good afternoon. John, I think, you and Adam, like, go way back. Good morning in North Carolina. You're still young. You're young at heart because you come every day. Elise in West Virginia, welcome. Joining us. Boker Tov. Clem in Brisbane. It's feeling a bit better. May you be gesund and well. Brisbane, Australia, where it's very late. He stays to make sure. Wow, amazing. We have Rachamim in Houston, Texas, joining us with Liba and Davida. Good morning in New York. Welcome. Cindy is joining us in Florida. And Josepa in Buenos Tardes. No, I'm sure that's not even the name of a place. Not just saying hello. Thank you. And who else is joining us over here? We have Diane in Arizona. She wakes up the morning. Omak is here from Murrieta, California. Boker Tov. Who else is joining us? We have Rusty in Texas. We have Erica in Norway. Mike in Cincinnati. Might be new. And of course, for a terrific Tuesday, we have Daphne joining us in South Carolina. Eugenia, fellow Canadian in Calgary. Alice, who's the salt of the earth in Baltimore. David is in Mexico visiting. Stan, our man, there by the king, making sure the king follows our teachings. Good afternoon in London, England. And we have Celeste Chava, who is today in Boulder, Colorado, right up in the countryside. Welcome. Who else is here with us? We have Elise in Georgia. Jeff is in Michigan joining us. Joshua in Williamsburg. I get that. Brooklyn. Oh, all right. Very good. Thank you, Josh, for joining. Ramon is in City Terrence, California. And Julia is, of course, in Pennsylvania, having an amazing day. Okay. We've got Vilma and Celeste, Marcy, Michael, Adam, Moish, Vivian. We have Instagrammers. That was Clubhousers. We have Rachel from South Carolina. Instagram. We have Yenta Telebenta. We have USA for Israel. Lily. Elizabeth. Who else do we got here? Lily in Israel. Oh, okay. We got Israel with us. Beautiful. What's greater? The act of charity, tzedakah, or the study of Torah, which we're engaged in right now? Important question to have answered. Tzedakah, charity, means you work hard for your money. You engage your vital soul in earning that money. And even if you didn't engage so much of your vital soul and body in making the money, that money could be used to improve your life, to make your life more pleasurable, more enjoyable. And yet, you give a portion of that away to tzedakah, whether it's 10% to 20% or more. That is a complete engagement of the individual and a real refinement that when you work hard for something, or something can be used for your enhancement of your life, and you give it away, tzedakah, charity, that is, according to the Jerusalem Talmud, the mitzvah. Because it's the greatest engagement in the material world, of the materiality of the person, and creating a dwelling place for God. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And therefore, giving charity is what's going to bring redemption. Bring the messianic redemption, Mashiach. It is the ultimate. Yet, our sages say in the Talmud, Torah study outweighs all the other mitzvahs, including charity, including tzedakah. How do we reconcile this? How do we understand that? How's that possible? What does that mean? So, explains the Alter Rebbe here in chapter 37, that the study of Torah, we use speech as I'm speaking, and of course thought, which are the inner garments of the individual, the inner expression of the person, as opposed to action. Giving charity is an action. It's external component of the individual. It's a lower quality of revealing yourself, meaning the fact that it's an action. The thoughts of the person, that's where you're found. So when you study Torah, because you're using your inner garments of self-expression, you're suffusing those garments of your soul with the light of Torah, with the infinite of God. And that is refining you on a deeper level. So yes, giving charity is a refinement, but it's not as deep a refinement as Torah study is. Again, because the act of charity is an action. So the refinement is of the vital soul and the body in an action. And that part of the person that you were engaged in the action to make the money or to use the money for yourself. And now you're refining yourself by giving it away, a portion. But Torah study is deeper because the thoughts of the person is a deeper place. And as we know, greater refinement needed there. A more difficult refinement. Torah study does that, and hence greater. Furthermore, the very substance and the essential intellectual faculties themselves of Chabad, Chochmah, Bina, V'das, right, that are naturally of Klipas Noiga, right, my intellectual faculties, the faculties themselves aren't holy until I actually study Torah. Then they're absorbed and become holy through the Torah study. Now, of course, you got to grasp what you're learning. You have to understand what's being taught. But not only your thoughts, but the actual faculties of Chabad now are absorbed in the holiness of the Torah study, in the holiness of God. Now, although that's the intellectual faculties, when it comes to the emotional faculties, chesed, gvura, tiferes, our kindness, and so on, they are not transformed into holiness. Only the righteous have the capability of transforming their emotional state of being into holiness. We don't. So we still, lingering in our hearts, desire is for things that are not unto God, that are of klipa. But the intellectual part of our being, the Chabad, again, Chochmah Bina V'das, of our mind, that is transformed right now by using it, concentrating on the learning, focused on the learning, grasping the learning. We're absorbed in our brain, our Chochmah Bina V'das, into divine holiness. So another reason why Torah study is greater than tzedakah. Aside from all this, and even far more important, is another reason why there's something superior to Torah study than all other mitzvahs, including even tzedakah, is because all the mitzvahs, 248 of them, to be precise, biblical commandments that is, are metaphorically called 248 limbs of the King, of God. Right? Now, as opposed to, that's the mitzvahs. As opposed to Torah study is kind of the brain as opposed to the limb. So let's understand from a human perspective. You can't make a comparison to the vitality that is in the limb called an arm, right? Or the hand, whatever, compared to the brain. The vitality in my hand is formidable, of course, giving me the capability of stretching out my hand to be giving, stretching out my hand to help somebody in an act of kindness. Absolutely. Can't compare that, though, to the vitality in my brain. Vitality in my brain is much greater, much more profound, much incomparable. That's the metaphor to understand the difference between mitzvahs and Torah study in our attachment, in our bond, in our connection to God. Our connection to God when we do a mitzvah, tzedakah, putting on tefillin, doing the mitzvah of eating matzah on Passover and the like, is a bond with God as just as the limb of the body is bound up to the person. Bound up, of course, the limb is a part of me. But the unity and the oneness does not compare to Torah, which is metaphorically like the brain. The brain, how it's bound up to me? What do you mean? It's a lot more me, my brain, my brain than my arm. So the illumination of God, the Ein Sof, the limitlessness of God that's clothed in an action, the act of being charitable, the act of putting on tefillin, we're talking about the act now, right? So there's a bond there, is comparable to the bond of the limbs of the body to the person. Of course, there's a bond there. Of course, there's a connection. But you can't compare it to the bond the brain has to the person. And therefore, the illumination of the Ein Sof that is in the Chabad, the Chachma Bina V'das, the intelligence of in my brain, when I'm immersed in the wisdom of Torah, the illumination of God's light is much more formidable, much more greater unity as the brain is united with me, as similar to the brain as how it's united with me. You might say, well, ooh, that's a very ethereal and very deep connection. The Torah study makes it far more superior than any mitzvah in its connection, even that of charity, of tzedakah, right? But isn't our Torah study like, clothed in the physical, in physical terms? In other words, like the idea, two people are holding. Yesterday's Rambam, by the way. Yesterday's Rambam, wow. And today's, in the third chapter of yesterday. Two people are holding onto a garment. This one says, I found it. This one says, I found it. So what's the wisdom of God? So, the point being that it's the wisdom of God, and the way it's clothed in the materiality of this world. So what are we grasping? Is the materiality of this world and the law as it applies to it, right? Yet, what is it? God's wisdom and will that we are grasping. So even though we're grasping it in the material context, but in the end, what is it? God's will and wisdom that we are grasping in the law, and hence we're being absorbed. Our faculties of Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of our mind is being absorbed in the Ein Sof, the limitlessness of God, even though we're learning, you learn something that's got a very narrow, limited, teachings that is of a physical reality in this world. So with all that, what do we see? Torah study is greater. A greater unity, a greater refinement of the individual. Wow. But it's not over, folks. Tomorrow, we flip it back. You have to wait till tomorrow. But as of now, Torah study is the greatest. That's maybe why you're here today and every day. Because of that great unity and great refinement that is specifically through Torah study. Awesome. Amazing. Stay tuned for more. All right. Brett has a question. Do you think that charity is a mitzvah? Second. Whether or not one understands the divine implication, whereas Torah study does not require understanding, which leads to transformation. Well, one second. Brett. In the act of giving charity, whether you appreciate the great virtue of it, what you've accomplished, how you've helped, and how divine it is, you're still bound up with God in the act of giving. Likewise, if you're putting on tefillin, the act of putting on the tefillin, you understand, you don't understand, you're bound up with God, period. as we said, like the limbs are bound up to me. Torah study, on the other hand, you do need understanding. If it's oral Torah, the 5 books of Moses, if you don't understand, like when you get Aliyah to the Torah or you read it, you still get connected. But the oral Torah, which is the Tanya that we're learning, or if it's Talmud that you're studying, the Rashi on Chumash, Rambam, whatever it might be, needs to be a grasping and understanding of the topic in order that it should be considered Torah study. Meaning that you're grasping it, and therefore you are bound up with God, with the divine, in a much more deeper union than through the act of a mitzvah, even charity. Just as the brain is bound up with the person, much more so than the limbs of the person are bound up with the person. Right, for the metaphor, and the greater refinement, because you're refining your intellect, your thoughts, which is a lot more difficult act of refinement than your actions. Thank you, Brett, for keeping on asking questions. Appreciate it. So today's learning is in honor of Aaron Leib Ben Laser, first Yortzeit, Leo Stroll, blessed memory, a great supporter of synagogue here and of many things in Trail and beyond. May his neshama go from strength to strength. And also for Chana Kabessa's father, Yaakov ben Yehuda Leib Levi, Yortzeit, 50th Yortzeit almost. Yeah. First and 50th, wow. Jeff, without Torah Tanya study, we don't have the direction to know to give charity. Is that the basis of it being greater? I can see both sides. Yeah, very good. Very good, Jeff. We're actually going to go more into that tomorrow. Very good. Right now, what we did was bring out the greatness of the act, as we did yesterday at length, and we today went over the points, and as we today elucidated how the Torah study is greater, then we will flip things tomorrow to bring another component, another side to things. So it ain't over. But thank you, Jeff. Norm. Oh, I'm sorry, Vilma. Go ahead, then Norm.
Yes, I was going to tell you there's a question by Norm on the chat.
Okay, so I'm inviting him to speak, and maybe he just wants me to repeat it from there.
Hi there.
Oh, okay, Norm. Good to hear from you.
Hi.
Hello.
Great to be here. I love what we're doing. As I think V was saying, or Bachi, I couldn't tell who was speaking. I have this idea that essentially doing mitzvahs, davening, putting on tefillin, eating kosher, keeping Shabbat enhances, like it works symbiotically with Torah study. The more you practice, the deeper you understand. It's an idea. I'm sure it's not original. It's just the way it's just something that occurred to me, and I wondered what the position is. What is the wisdom on this matter?
Excellent, Norm. Thank you. So, yeah, ultimately we need everything, right? We need all components in our lives. we can't just have air to breathe. We need water to drink, and we need food to eat, and we need clothes to wear, and we need shelter. We need so many different components in our lives. So likewise, we need so many different types of mitzvahs or ways to connect. There are various ways to connect. So what we've done till now is bring out the virtue of each one independent of the other. But as Norm says, and correctly so, and it will actually be tomorrow, we'll bring that out more so, is that they're mutually not exclusive, but very much inclusive, and one leading to the other. You know, that one leads to the other. And absolutely correct. You know, we need, again, all the different components in our lives, and to, even though again we're exalting each one uniquely for its uniqueness, but in the end they are not uniquely separate from the other, but uniquely connected with the other. And yes, we'll deal with that more so tomorrow to bring out that idea. But yeah, thank you. Well, thank you very much. Good man. Davida. When someone leaves the world after 120 years and is judged by the heavenly court, they judge on Torah study, mitzvahs, or giving tzedakah. They're judged on everything. Actually, the first question you're asked is, did you do business with faith? Which is very interesting. I don't want to get too much off the topic, but the first question is, did you do business with proper faith? How do you do business with proper faith? One of the things is, did you give tzedakah? Right? Did you really believe in God, that He's the one who gives you livelihood, and therefore were honest in your business? And moreover, do you really believe that God is the one who gives the wealth, and therefore you gave away from your wealth, knowing that God will provide even greater wealth? That's the first question. Second question, I think, is did you wait for Mashiach? I think the third question is, did you set aside times for study of Torah every day? Like everybody here that comes every day, day in, day out, to learn. So that's what it was. So you're doing pretty good over here, folks. I must say. There's another question over here. Alice, where's Alice's question? Okay, I lost, Alice, your question. If you don't mind to put it back up. Unless you have it here. No, sorry, I don't see it. I lost the feed. As has happened in the past. Sorry. Okay. Don't see it. Tzedakah can't one time by month. Okay. All right. Folks, Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, great, terrific Tuesday. God bless you all.